Hello and welcome to the Innovation Management class, setting up a corporate innovation program that works. My name is Mari Herger. I will guide you in the next few hours through innovation management and entrepreneurship, also the Silicon Valley and what I do and why you actually need that. This is a program that is sponsored by the Berufsförderungsinstitut in Wien and by Enterprise Garage. But let's dive in. I'm the author of the book, The Silicon Valley Mindset, which came out in March this year in German. And it is a reflection on my experiences in Silicon Valley, where I've been living for the past 15 years, and where I looked at what makes the Silicon Valley so innovative. What can we learn from them? And this also gives us a reason of why we need innovation, why we need to learn of how to master creativity, have more ideas, and create a culture in our own organizations that help us become more innovative. Now let's dive in, and the first thing that I want to tell you is Europe is awesome. There's no need that you get into defensive mode, fearing innovation, fearing Silicon Valley. There's a lot of stuff that we in Europe have achieved. We have a very beautiful continent, Vienna. I mean, this is my hometown. You see how beautiful, how nice the life is. We have very pretty villages and cities everywhere. We have a good life. We feel good, we're secure, we're safe. We can fulfill our dreams that we have. Of course, we have also very good food. Each time I'm in Austria or in Europe, I enjoy the great pastries, the great food that is there. But we cannot deny that there are also problems. We have people who are homeless. We have people who have suffer from drug abuse. We have terrorism coming to us. This has been a picture of the attacks in Paris a week after it happened. I happened to be there and see them. And we have people from all over the world coming to us to look for help, to look for safety, to come to Germany, to come to Europe, to live their lives as family, their professional lives, raising their children. Now, if you've grown up in Austria like I have, and you get this feeling that everything was invented in Austria by Austrians. For example, the sewing machine by Madersberger, or the propeller for the ships by Ressel, or by Mitterhofer, the first typewriter. But unfortunately, it's always the same. Somebody else took this idea and made money with that. And that brings us to the point of what actually is an innovator, an inventor. What does it take? And that is something that we're going to talk about in this innovation management class. Having an idea and not bringing it to people is just invention. Inventing something, discovering something is not enough to make it innovation. Innovation means we need to be able to bring it to people so that they can benefit from that. And that could be through commercialization, through selling them, or just making it accessible. So if we now understand that those inventors from Austria who had the sewing machine, the propeller, the typewriter, they did not make it, there was something else missing. There was somebody putting risk capital, venture capital into that. People who are willing to buy these first versions. People who support an inventor, play with the ideas, help them to improve them, connect them with the right people. All these are things and elements that we need. Innovation in the end is nothing else than an idea that we commercialize and execute on that. So here's a story. This is René Kachlier. He runs a sausage kiosk stand in Vienna. And he contacted me, he reached out to me and told me that he had bought my book. And I thought, very interesting. A sausage stand operator is reading my book about the Silicon Valley. How's that? So I met with him. And this is René, who is showing us his sausages, his special sausages that he had. But what he did is he pitched me 3 ideas that he had, 3 startup ideas, of which one was how he can connect students with people who are looking for certain services. Let's say you're planning a wedding and you need a wedding photographer. And if you're a photography student, you could get first practical field experience in that for a lower price than you normally would. So he told me about that, and I thought that's a really good idea. Yeah, you maybe should try to validate that, build the first version, look if people are interested on that. So he told me that actually he had spoken to a number of students whom he hired or wanted to help him with building this platform. After a week of silence, those students came back and said, well, no, because all the students that are on this platform then, they have to have a license, an economic license that they get from the trade chamber. And therefore it would not work. So these students were thinking immediately in problems. They were not looking at the opportunities that they had and validate the idea, are people actually interested in that? Is there a market for that? They looked immediately, they zeroed in immediately on the problems that could come up, namely that the students need a license. And that is a certain type of thinking that we often see in Europe. I want to introduce you to Jim McKelvey. Jim McKelvey is a glassblower from Texas. And, well, he mixes glassware and glass art and had this one customer who came to him and said, oh, I'm really interested in your glass art, but unfortunately, I don't have enough cash with me. Do you take credit card? And Jim said, well, in order to take credit cards, I would have needed a business account at the bank, and I don't have that. And dealing with each credit card organization separately is just a pain. So no, I cannot do that. So he could not close the deal. But it didn't stop him from thinking about that. He kept revolving around this idea and said, I'm not the only one who has a problem. There are so many other people who have that. My friends, maybe people who operate little shops, flea markets. Who knows who needs to accept credit card and cannot do that today. So what he did is he went to a tech shop. A tech shop is an organization, a facility that allows you to access different types of tools, like CNC mills, woodworking tools, 3D printers, laser cutters, all this kind of stuff. And he can also take courses. So he did that. He took electronic classes and plastic molding classes and built a first prototype of what we see here, of this little pin. And this is something that you would stick in your iPhone or iPad, and suddenly you can swipe a credit card through that and accept that. He built an app. Within a few months, he had raised several $100 million in venture capital. And last year, in 2015, end of last year, he went IPO. He went to the stock exchange and went public, so to speak, at an evaluation of $2.9 billion. Now, let's walk back a little bit, because in Austria and in the neighboring countries, we actually do have a glass blowing tradition. Riedel, the wine glasses, Swarovski, the gemstone makers, Lobmeier in Vienna makes these chandeliers. Now, imagine somebody from the glass blowing industry, like a Riedel employee, goes and disrupts the banking business. If I tell you that, you would say, Mario, you're crazy, this is never going to happen. But here it happened. And this is not the only story. These are here 3 roommates. The problem was that they were short of their rent. So they couldn't pay the rent, a few days only left. But they figured out, you know what? There are all these conferences at the moment in San Francisco. There are no hotel rooms. The hotel room prices are just skyrocketing. Maybe we buy an air mattress, put it out there in our spare room that we have, and put it on the internet. Lo and behold, they rented the room, got enough money for paying their own rent, and that was the beginning of Airbnb. When I travel to Europe, I typically stay in an Airbnb because I think it's a much better experience. I have more infrastructure. I have more stable internet in an Airbnb typically. And I meet those people, these locals there. And so these three guys who came from a very different area suddenly disrupt with their idea the hospitality industry. Or take these two guys. These two guys are at the Le Web Summit in 2008 in Paris. It's raining, you know, they do the tourist program, it's raining, they're waiting for a taxi, cannot get a taxi, everyone, no taxis over there. That's impossible. How can we get a taxi? Somebody has to solve that problem. Well, they did. In 2009, they founded a company called Uber, which became the largest ride-sharing company in the world. And again, those people, those guys, were not from the transportation industry. Those are digital guys. They build apps. That's what they did. And that's the power suddenly of coming from a different industry and disrupting one. Now, why are these people like that? Are they superheroes? Are they having all these great buildings, nice buildings that makes them so innovative and creative? This is here the coming Apple headquarters in Cupertino. Or is it because some of these places are so worn down and shabby that this helps them become more creative? Or is it the air in California? Is it the water? Is there something in the water? Are these people genetically different? Do they smoke something that's different? I have no idea. Well, in fact, it turns out that they're not different. There is a certain thing that makes them different. When we look at the numbers, in Silicon Valley, we have 50 to 60,000 Germans living there. We have around 4,000 Austrians living there. And we have exactly 5,327 Swiss living in Silicon Valley. Yes, that is Swiss precision. So let's take a look at how Silicon Valley came up and why people are thinking differently. And if you understand that, it helps us understand how to implement an innovation program in our own organizations. This is a picture from around 1850. This is the bay in San Francisco, the harbor in San Francisco. You had hundreds of abandoned ships standing there. What had happened? Well, in 1848, they discovered gold. The big gold rush started. And it was really hard to get to San Francisco. Back then, you had to take the Oregon-California Trail, which took 6 months basically on open plains, on dusty roads, on snowy mountains. It was really tough. These were all these trekkers, these treks that came together to move there. Or the alternative was taking a ship. Taking a ship from New York or from Miami, going south around South America and then going up again. And this also took 6 months on a rat-infested, bug-infested ship. It have been horrible. You can only imagine of how hard it must have been. But as soon as those ships came and arrived in San Francisco, both the passengers and the crew abandoned ship, just left the ship where it was, and moved all the gold rush country. Now, the city of San Francisco, which grew within a few years from 1,000 people to 70,000 people, had the problem of what should we do with those ships? And, well, they used them for building houses or sunk them in order to build out certain streets that they had there. But those people that came there, they could only win. They were hungry. They used a chance. They took a risk to get there. And that is a very important attitude, a very important characteristic of people who are trying to improve the world, who see things as an opportunity to improve it. San Francisco, if you're coming to San Francisco, put flowers in your hair, is a way of telling that San Francisco is different. You see here Beta Breakers. This is the annual 10K run that they have, and people dress up in the funniest and weirdest clothing and dresses that you can imagine. It's a celebration of diversity. San Francisco is also the hotspot of homosexual and LGBT culture, which also means that places where people tolerate diversity, people with different lifestyles, people with different backgrounds, people with different ideas, it also helps you spark new ideas, bring this clash together. I can tell you, there are so many people from different backgrounds. I know today more about Bollywood movies than I ever wanted to know. But that enriches my life, and I have a broader thinking of how things run, how the world works, what we could create together. Now let's imagine it's 2006 and you have €1 billion, a million euro, billion would be too much, €1 million to invest. You know, you're interested in startups and you're looking for new ideas where you can put your money in and have some fun with that. And then comes this young startup founder and tells you, hey, I have this great idea where people can send each other messages with 140 characters. Invest in me. And he looks at you with this excited look, and you just think, oh my God, what an idiot is that? What a stupid idea. This is the most stupid idea that I've ever heard. Who let this guy in here? Huh? That is our reaction. That is also my reaction to certain things. But as you can already imagine, that was Twitter. And Twitter, well, Twitter is an evaluation of $20 billion, which is a public company. And that also means it doesn't look like that it has been that stupid of an idea after all. So why, what happened here? Well, the founder could be sure that the person that I'm talking to would react not with this gut reaction saying stupid idea, but says, I don't understand it, but tell me more about it. It is this, yes, and can I do this here? Instead of, yes, but who needs that? Yeah. So it is this kind of positively bringing it up, continuing, playing with the idea, maybe also improving it. The founder itself was sure that he was operating in a psychologically safe environment. And that means he could be sure that the person that he presents this idea is not ridiculing it or laughing about it or just what a stupid idea, saying things like that, but honestly trying to understand what it is and helping you. Even if this person in the end may not be the right investor or interested, this person still may help connect me with other people or give some tips on the idea what could be done or what should be looked into. I'll give you an example of a psychologically safe environment. There were two hospitals. And hospitals have to report errors, medical errors that they have. Now, there was one hospital that had few medical errors listed in their report book. The other one had a lot of errors reported. Which hospital do you think is the safer one for a patient? Which one would you like to go more often? If you have to choose, of course, not more often, but if you have to choose for that. The one that reported few errors, or the one that had many errors reported? Well, it turns out you should go to the hospital that has the many errors reported, because the one with the few errors was one that had not a psychologically safe environment. What does it mean? People were punished for making errors. So in order to avoid punishment, they did not report those errors. But the effect is dramatic because other people, my colleagues, my co-workers there, could not learn from the mistakes and could not improve on that. So they tried to put it under the carpet and hide that thing. So there were more fatalities, more medical errors actually, in fact, in this one hospital. While the other one, where we reported many errors, what happened there is that all the staff could learn about it and improve the processes, less fatalities, better outcome in medical care. And that is what a psychologically safe environment is. You can start with that yourself. Are you a person in your organization that would tell somebody else, you know, today I had this one colleague told me an idea, this is such a stupid idea. When you say something like this, then you're creating a psychologically unsafe environment. because this person that you tell that would never come with an idea to you, out of fear that he's the one or she's the one being talked about like this from you. So it starts with every one of us. It is important to create such a psychologically safe environment because it allows us to also talk about ideas, even if they're unpolished. And Linus Pauling, 2 times Nobel Award winner for chemistry and for peace, he said, if you want to have good ideas, you must have many ideas. So I need ideas in order to build up and spark new ideas. And ideas are here to improve. And at the beginning, as we've seen with Twitter, for example, we are really bad in understanding what's a good idea. A good idea in the end doesn't help if I'm not executing. The most important hard thing is executing on it. So you must be also open to failure. You will fail, certainly. Many ideas turn out to be not so good, but you don't know until you try them. So you have to be ready for that and prepared for that and not be afraid of that. Like those guys who came to the gold rush. They were not afraid of risking. They could only win there. So one of the things that I do normally, I address everyone on the first name base. It doesn't matter if this is, a government official, if this is a professor, if this is the CEO of a company. I address them when they visit the Silicon Valley on the first name base. If you are too concerned about your reputation, that you have a title, that you are an important person, then you would never consider of phrasing or telling somebody about an idea that you have, and this idea is not yet polished. Because you're afraid that an unpolished idea may stain your own reputation. So this is one of the first things to get rid of. To not think of how an idea, how creativity can stain your reputation. If you're too concerned about that, you will never be innovative. Also, here, if you learn walking, you fall down. You fall down hundreds of times, maybe thousands of times. But if you have walked into this classroom today, you have not reacted when you were 2-year-old, after falling down the 100th time. You would not lay there and say, well, maybe walking is not for me, so I'll never again stand up again. I'll take the safe route and I just lay. No, you never gave up. You tried even if you failed, and you became better over time. So that is a very important thing to understand, that failure is not a negative thing. To fail is a first attempt in learning. You learn out of that and you make it better. For that, of course, you need to have ambition. That means also you need to have the certain drive, the curiosity, including the intelligence to do that. But most importantly, the drive that you're interested in improving the world and not just waiting that you can go home because the time's over to the work hours. No, you need to be driven. You need to feel that that is your passion. You need to find that. If you're today in a company or in an organization or in an environment where you don't feel like that, then change it. You want to waste your life? Now, let's take a look in Silicon Valley. So this is an interesting place. This is the NASA Moffett Airfield. This is a military base. Now we have the Singularity University. Now we have research facilities there that you can access. And this building here is the steel skeleton of a Zeppelin hangar. So there was really a Zeppelin, this dirigible airships in there in the 1930s. And that's what's left of it. It is today, Google rented it and will use it in the future for public spaces, for robotics and their projects that they have. But what's more, and that's the view. You see that thing from the so-called Singularity University that's located on that premise. Now, what's singularity? What does singularity mean? Singularity is a term that was coined by Ray Kurzweil. Ray Kurzweil actually works now for Singularity University and for Google. And this is the point, singularity is the point where machines will become more intelligent than humans. And somewhere in the next 2 decades, probably, we expect that this is going to happen. In certain niche areas, this has already happened. For example, chess. IBM Watson beat the human chess champion. Also, AlphaGo, the Go computer by Google, beat the Korean Go champion. So in certain areas, we see already machines being smarter than us. And what we see in this curve here is, while human intelligence over the centuries has grown little and little and little, it's still growing. Yeah, we're becoming smarter. Our IQs are rising. Machines are much faster in that. They are what we call exponential. We see that in a couple of other areas. For example, in adoption rates of technologies, the pace increases. We are adopting faster technologies than in the past. For example, let's take a look here. When the telephone was introduced in 1878, it took 75 years to reach 100 million users. Now, the mobile phone, which was introduced in 1979, only took 16 years to reach 100 million users. And when you look at now these different things like Facebook, it took 4.5 years to reach 100 million users. Instagram, 2 years, 4 months. Candy Crush Saga, 1 year, 3 months. But the pace is still accelerating. Pokemon Go, you may have played that game or heard about that game. If you haven't played it, download it and play it. This helps you to understand digital disruption and innovation. Pokemon Go took 2 weeks to reach 100 million users. Now let's go back 100 years ago. In 2016, in Austria, we commemorated 100 years that the former emperor that we had deceased, Franz Josef. And in order to look at that, I went to the Summer Palace that is on the outskirts of Vienna, and they have a royal carriage museum there. So I stood in front of that carriage, and that was apparently the favorite carriage that the emperor had. He had half a dozen of that. It was back then in the 1900s, it was this mix between a Ferrari and a Rolls-Royce, luxurious sports carriage, so to speak. Now, the name of this carriage builder was Karl Marius. Don't worry if you've never heard of him, because I haven't either. And the story behind it is, why have we not heard about that, about him? Because something happened over the years. There was disruption coming to this industry. Horse carriages and horses were replaced by cars. And only few carriage makers or horse breeders made it into the car business. Karl Marius was not amongst them. Others were amongst them, like Studebaker or here, Lohner. This is the first electric vehicle that was built in 1899. And he worked with a clerk that was his employee. And this clerk's name, you're probably all familiar with him. His name was Ferdinand Porsche. Yes, the inventor of this sports car. But he was not a carriage maker. He was a clerk. And when we look at the different people that we had there, we see that Karl Benz was a mechanic. Ferdinand Porsche was a clerk. Johann Puch was also a mechanic. Henry Ford was a mechanic. Johann Puch was a locksmith, actually. Nicolas Otto, who made the Otto motor, the Otto engine, he was a gunsmith. So what you can see here is that people disrupting an industry coming from outside. We've seen it with Airbnb. We've seen it with Square, with this payment solution by Jim McKelvey, who disrupts the banking business. We've seen it with Uber. These people are coming from outside the industry. And we see that in a lot of industries going on, automotive industry. All these people today that are disrupting the automotive industry, from Google, Apple, Tesla, Uber, they're coming from computer science, from artificial intelligence, from robotics, but not from bending metals or learning about how to build an engine. And this is often happening. This can happen faster than you think. There are 5 stages from this book, How the Mighty Fall. The first stage is normally you are successful as a company, so you turn to become too complacent of your success. There's hubris born out of success. Yeah. In stage 2, you're now trying to achieve more and more and more, and you become undisciplined in that thing. Yeah. You take all the risks in order to get more and larger piece of the cake, and then you start denying the risk because you were so successful. That means you will be successful. Whatever you touch and do is just successful, and then you suddenly feel the decline coming, and you're looking for a solution. And the more desperate you become, the more desperate your solutions. You're looking for the salvation, so to speak. And then in the last stage, there is then often you're giving up. You're capitulating to irrelevance and die. And I mean, a lot of companies have seen that. Yeah, those a little bit older than us remember Kodak. Kodak ruled the world of film. In 2012, they filed for bankruptcy because they could not get into the digital business. Although Kodak in 1975 had the first digital camera. Another story, more recent example from 2007, 2008 is Nokia. Nokia was the king of the phones. BlackBerry similar, RIM, the company called RIM, Research in Motion. In business, you had a BlackBerry. Everywhere else, you had a Nokia phone. They were the rulers. And then came disruption from outside the industry, from a computer company named Apple. And they brought in the iPhone. And then other companies came in like Samsung and immediately tried to take the turf. And then this happened just recently, just the last days here in 2016, their flagship phone started burning off. Yeah, and now they're getting out of the business of at least that line of product that they have. This comes faster than you think. Not only the ascent and the disruption comes faster, but also your own problems can come faster than ever before. And then you probably followed that, the scandal about the diesel, the cheating software that they built in. And suddenly this company, all the many years that they built up their reputation, that they have had this positive emotional connection with people, with their customers, suddenly turns into a lethal problem for them. They don't know it yet, but the Volkswagen brand is probably going away because this comes faster if you're being in this hubris, in this arrogance, in this complacence, and think you can do and bend the laws in a way where you're cheating. Here's an example from Austria. This is a company called Ohmic, was a company called Ohmic, and they were the market leaders and were most advanced with technologies like Super 8 film cameras and projectors. They were the king. So if you did private recordings or professional recordings, you used their technology. And in the end, they owned 100% of the market. But 100% of nothing is nothing. Because what had happened? VCRs came, yeah, video cassettes. Suddenly you had a new technology and they were not able to jump over that technological barrier and folded. Now, when we look at these things, we always think in terms of a Greek mythology, like David versus Goliath. We always think the underdog, this new startup that is coming, this new company that is coming is a David, is losing actually. He's not here to win because this is just a weakling. On the other hand, we have Goliath, this big one, this mighty one, the company with all the resources, with the billions of dollars available for them to do that, with the tens of thousands of people, with their customers, with their networks and everything. Now, but when we look at this David versus Goliath story from the past, we see that Goliath never had a fighting chance. And I'll tell you why. So Goliath had this disease. He was as tall, 2.50 meters, because he had this disease where he kept growing and growing and growing. And with that, it also meant that his joints and ankles were all hurting. Yeah? He was myopic. He couldn't see very far. They had actually to carry his shield forward to the battlefield. And he was a soldier, so he followed the rules that of the battle. And the battle rules were You fight one-on-one with a sword in your hand and decide the fate of your own army and your own king or leader or whoever you had. Now, David, on the other hand, he was not a soldier, so he didn't really care about rules because he was a shepherd, and the shepherd's choice of weapon is a slingshot. A slingshot, because this is how he gets the wolves and the predators away from his sheep, from his flock. But you have to know the following thing. A slingshot shooter, a skilled slingshot shooter, can accelerate a stone up to the speed of a fired bullet. So when you look at the premise here, you realize that Goliath came with a sword, with a knife basically, to a gunshot duel. There was no chance that he ever had. And that is, when you look now at industries that get disrupted, you see that these old industries like Kodak, like Nokia, they are these Goliaths that fight by the rules that they know, but they are already myopic, they are already hurting, while the new entrants are coming and they're playing by new rules. They're coming from outside the industry. They do not have the relationships. They are stepping on people's toes. They don't even realize that because they don't care, because they do not have these relationships with them. And they can go much faster than everyone else, and they come with new technology, and they hit you faster than you can blink. And how fast that goes that's something that we've seen, for example, in Detroit, the big motor city, the big where the car companies were. And in 2008, suddenly General Motors, a blue chip company, files for bankruptcy and has to be saved by the government. Yeah? Fiat buys Chrysler because Chrysler is nearly falling. Ford barely makes it. And the city of Detroit, this powerful, proud city, loses half of its population because they all move away. There are no jobs there anymore. And not only do they lose half of the population, they lose also half of their dead people, because those people who moved away took their people and dug them out of the graves. So how can you look at that? There are examples of companies who are changing and changing completely the way they think. For example, this apparel maker, sports apparel maker, Under Armour. You may have heard about them. They make these t-shirts. They're in the size of, I think they're similar in their business volume than Adidas. A few years ago, the founder, Kevin Plank, realized that there's something going on with digital transformation. And he looked into his company and saw that he had around 60 people who knew about digital. That means they were familiar with building websites, with building apps, with data analysis. But he thought, that's not enough for me. I have to learn more about that. So he went on a shopping spree. He bought a couple of startups, including Endomondo, and increased the number of digital people that he had, digitally skilled people, to up to 400-500 people. But not only that, he also acquired with those apps 120 million users. So suddenly, instead of going to the retailers and figuring out what are the latest trends, what are people doing, what they're buying, he's going directly to the users and sees what sports they're doing, at what times they're doing, how often they're doing it, with whom they're doing it. And not only that, he also realizes, well, I have a lot of medical data about my users here. And suddenly he transforms from being an apparel maker to a data service provider. He can build additional services on this data that he collects and maybe sell it to, let's say, healthcare providers or insurance companies, so that they can, put better price models on that, understand better how healthy people are, incentivize them to do more sports, etc. And that may be, in fact, a larger business than his original business of selling sports clothing. Here's another example. This is John Deere. John Deere is one of the largest agricultural machine makers in the world. But the tractors and these harvesting machines are not the same that your grandpa had. They are completely different today. So, for example, if you drive such a machine over the field, it not only GPS geotags where we are, where the machine is, but it also measures the humidity of the soil, the fertilizing degree, the weather temperatures, and everything what's necessary. And then the farmer can log on myjohndeere.com on the website and get recommendations for what to what to sow there, where to water exactly, how much fertilizing, at what time of the year you should do that, or what day, more or less precisely. And suddenly, this manufacturer of agricultural machines turns into a data service provider like Under Armour. And that may be a very big business suddenly for them. Another story is Amazon. You learned about Amazon. You know about Amazon. You probably shopped about Amazon, or you're a fan of Amazon. So this is one of their warehouses. But did you know that Amazon makes more profit from a completely different business, namely not the retail business? It actually makes more money today from Amazon Web Services. What are the web services? Well, Amazon, in order to make a shopping experience that's great and that's stable and that can deal with hundreds of thousands of concurrent users accessing and shopping on the site, created basically a platform and a technology that can handle those requests. And of course, that's an expensive thing because this is IT infrastructure that you build up. And normally in every company, that's kind of a cost center. So you have to spend a lot of money on that. But what Amazon realized is we can actually monetize on that if we offer that service that we built for ourselves also to others. And lo and behold, there's a huge interest in that. Hundreds of thousands of companies and developers are using Amazon for hosting their own applications. Netflix is one of the most prominent examples. And you know, Netflix in the US is responsible for 37% of all internet traffic. That's how stable that platform is. And suddenly, you're moving into territory of companies such as Salesforce, Dell, HP, SAP, Oracle, that also offer cloud services. And Amazon is much better positioned than them. So suddenly a retailer moves into business software, business services, and really eats your lunch. Now, instead of reacting like, somebody should call somebody to do something, like let's go to the government and let's protect them from those people, you have to do something, and you can do. You don't have to ask anyone's permission. And we can also do that in Europe. And here's a picture of where you see that. That is DavisBahnhof in Vienna. This is 5 minutes where I lived for 18 years. I'm from Vienna, as you can imagine, as you can hear now. And about a year ago, over 1 million refugees from Syria, from Lebanon, from Libya, from Afghanistan, from Pakistan, crossed through this train station. And that was unprecedented and unexpected. And before the government or officials could react, citizens, volunteers, private people already had reacted and set up food stations, drink stations, where they handed out, where they helped, they got the people diapers, they used the parking lot, the parking garage to set up children areas and sleeping areas for those. The railway started reacting quickly by adding additional people, by not following protocol. Even police officers on their own went ahead and helped. Instead of following the strict regulations, they realized this is a humanitarian catastrophe. So we are able to do something without expecting somebody else to do that. And only a few days later, then finally government and city officials were very able to come in and take that under their umbrella and bring the official resources into that. So that's why I'm very confident that each of us can do those things. And what's important is you don't have to wait for anyone to give you permission. You just do it. Don't ask for permission. Ask for forgiveness. Yeah? And this way, if you learn that, you will understand that you can make Europe stay awesome and your organization stay awesome. If you speak German, I have this book which is called The Silicon Valley Mindset. And I'm talking much more about all these elements that help us to become more creative and innovative, to learn from the Silicon Valley. If you want to contact me, here's some of my information. And that's basically the introduction to this innovation management course. that we have with a couple of instructors, with some classroom sessions, with other sessions. So feel free to contact me and enjoy the whole program. Thank you.